Hey everyone, Dan from FB Geeks here, and today I am doing my first video comparison review, and it features two fantastic fountain pens from Pilot, the Metal Falcon and the Justus 95. Now, I've already reviewed the Justus 95 in both video and written form, so if you want to know all the details about this pen, definitely check those out. I have not reviewed the Falcon on its own, and I'm reviewing the metal version here because, well, that's the only one I have on hand. But most everything I say about the metal Falcon will be applicable to the resin Falcon, except the resin one is about $100 cheaper. So keep that in mind throughout the review. But as far as price goes, that resin one sells for about $144. The metal one sells for about $240, and the Justus 95 for about $312. So there's a few different level of price points there, but I think the Metal Falcon is a really good comparison to the Justus 95 because it's a little bit closer in price, and also it's closer in size, and that will make a difference in the review. So I don't know about you, but I am really excited to get into these two. Here we've got the Pilot Falcon with rhodium plated trim and the Pilot Justus 95 with gold plated trim. The Falcon features a metal cap and barrel and comes in black, brown, burgundy, or sapphire. The Justus is made of resin and comes in lined guilloche as seen here, or a barleycorn finish. The Justus features a few more details than the cap, specifically the cap band and the engraving on the clip, but the Falcon seems a bit more refined due to its simpler design. The cap of both pins threads on and off, as well as does the barrel, which reveals the large Con 70 converter. This is the largest of the three converters Pilot offers, and in my experience is the easiest to get a full fill in. It should be noted that the resin Falcon is not large enough to accept the Con 70 pump converter. Both pins feature a 14 karat gold nib, with the Justus only available in fine or medium, while the Falcon is available in extra fine, fine, medium, or broad. The big feature of the Justus is that it includes a mechanism to adjust the nib from soft to hard. The Justus is definitely the larger of the two pins, and that difference is easily felt in the hand. It's large enough that I can get by using it without posting, but doing so doesn't shift the balance or change the feel too much. The Falcon is comfortable unposted as well, but less so than the Justus, especially when I'm flexing the nib for any length of time. I just prefer a larger pin for that style of writing. Of course, this won't apply to everyone, so if you prefer smaller or thinner pins, then the Falcon, or even the resin version, may be the better choice. The cap does post very well on the Falcon, but since it's made of metal, it does affect the balance a little more than posting the cap on the Justus does. I wouldn't say it's detrimental to the writing experience, but the difference is more easily felt in the hand. For the writing sample, I'm going to ink both pins with Iroshizuku Takasumi. I find this ink performs very well in pens with flexible nibs as long as you have good paper that can handle it. And my choice for that task is Rhodia R paper. It's a 90 gram ivory colored paper that lately I can't seem to use often enough. I'll briefly discuss the tension mechanism of the Justus, but for all the details, please check out my full review of this pen. The gist of it boils down to this. I couldn't feel a difference between setting the nib to soft or hard, but I could see a difference in the line width under normal, light writing pressure. When set to hard, the line width was uniform, and when set to soft, there was just enough variation and pressure from my writing to spread the tines and increase ink flow, which creates a bit of line variation that makes my writing a little more unique. The soft nib in the Falcon seems to be softer than the nib in the Justus when it's set to soft. Not that I could really feel the difference though. The only way I could tell was because I could see more deflection in the tines of the Falcon nib than I could in the Justus, which was almost imperceptible. I also couldn't feel a difference when flexing both nibs. The only discernible difference between the two was that the Falcon railroaded more often than the Justus, which was honestly very surprising. I don't think it's fair to compare the smoothness of these two pins because the Justus is a fine and the Falcon is an extra fine. Also, smoothness is something that can be adjusted, and the pen you get may feel a lot different out of the box than the pen I got. I will say that each nib seems true to size, with the Falcon being noticeably thinner. Flow from both pens was excellent under non-flexed writing conditions. When spreading the tines, it became apparent that the Justus was the better pen. I could write for pages with the Justus without the feed having any issues, but I could only go a few sentences with the Falcon before the ink flow would become interrupted. Then I'd have to wait at least 5 seconds or so before the flow would come back and I could do any kind of writing. In this next sample, listen to the difference between the two nibs. The cross strokes from the Falcon are pretty harsh thanks to that extra fine nib. It's not the worst EF nib I've ever used, but it's far from the best. Now let's take a look at their flex performance. Pushing both pens to their max, I could consistently produce lines as thick as 1.45 millimeters. I measured them using a 10x loop and a pair of digital calipers. And when I say their max, I mean I didn't feel comfortable applying any more pressure to the Justus's nib, and the Falcon was railroading. Although if the Falcon's feed could have kept up, I think I could have pushed it a little further than the Justus. Both of their performances were very good, and I'd easily classify them as being vintage semi-flex, though I'm far from an authoritative voice in that department. Here's a pen I would classify as full flex, a vintage Wall Eversharp Gold Seal that I can easily push to 2.4 millimeters, almost a full millimeter wider than either Pilot pen. And here's that Wall Eversharp again, just for fun. This angle does a decent job of showing how far the nib moves away from the feed when flexed, but honestly, I think it's just a great view. It appears the Falcon moves further from the feed, which is interesting since they both produce the same line widths. I think this shows the Falcon's nib is softer and is one reason it railroads. The further the nib is from the feed, the easier the capillary action is broken. One very cool trick you can do with the Falcon is flip it over and produce some very broad paintbrush-like strokes. I could see this being useful for artists or for creating ink samples to show off the variation in color. The Justus can be flipped as well, but doesn't produce anything near as cool. At best, it produces an EF line that's actually smooth enough to be useful. So those are my thoughts on these two great pens by Pilot. Now personally, if I was going to be writing with these, I would grab the Justus 95 almost every time. It just feels more comfortable in the hand to me. I like its larger size, and it's had fewer railroading issues, so it was a big plus for me. But it is quite a bit more expensive than the metal Falcon, and a lot more expensive than the resin Falcon. So your budget is definitely going to play a factor in this, and really you can't go wrong with either of these two. Really good performance out of both of them. This one you can push the Falcon past its feed, so you do got to kind of watch out for that, but otherwise it's an amazing pen, and the resin one comes in at a fantastic price. So leave a comment below, let me know which one you like more, and if you have any questions, I will be very happy to answer them. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Indulge.